Welcome back to Rune Walking in Modern Times. I'm Ken Edwards, your host, author, shaman of the Northern Traditions, and Rune Walker. This episode actually began probably about a month ago. I was looking back at my notes, and October 25th is when I was prepping for a new episode. And if you're keeping track, that is actually when I stopped making episodes, like three in a row, because life was just a little too nuts at the moment. And this I felt was going to turn into like a 3-part series for this specific reading. So today we're going to handle the first part. And part of my process for doing the episodes is sometimes I will pull from the runes to ask. Sometimes I will pull from a set of tarot cards. There's one called The Giant's Tarot by Raven Caldera. And so it has all of the concepts and ideas held in the Northern traditions in the tarot. Or I will pull from archetypes, the Wild Unknown Archetypes by Kim Kranz. I like both of those. So I was a little lost about what to... Not lost. I was just looking for inspiration as to where to begin. And it being October 25th, the idea of that liminal space of the year was, maybe a little too potent. And so I had to just let it sit and simmer. It's still simmering, by the way, which is why it's going to be a 3-parter. I felt inspired to begin by pulling from the Giant's Tarot. So shuffled and pulled the card Loki, which is the magician, which I thought was pretty interesting for being such a liminal time of year. Also, interesting because, even in my YouTube feed of late, Loki has been a major, or someone who's been showing up. So I thought it's pretty interesting. So I took the card, sat with it. I, of course, dig into the book because usually there are words that will trigger that intrigue me, and that will lead me down some sort of interesting path. So I would like to read part of Raven Caldera's interpretation of this card. We're going somewhere, I promise. Loki, we're talking about Loki. He may be the most used pagan god of all time, although he is mainly used as a convenient villain in most modern fiction. He is a sacred trickster deity, and like all tricksters, he is brilliant, eloquent, devious, skillful, manipulative, secretive, theatrical, and mercurial. He is an ambivalent figure of opposites, loyal friend and devastating betrayer, resourceful minion and plotting mastermind, golden-tongued diplomat, and impulsively self-destructive fool. He is loving husband to two very different wives who almost symbolize his twin sides, and loving father to his many offspring, including the monstrous ones, at the same time that he is a ruthless killer. He is breaker of worlds and father of lies, yet he holds much wisdom if you can get him to give you a straight answer. We're going to skip a little bit. This card symbolizes skillfulness in all its forms, but especially mental agility, flexibility, and brilliance. When it comes up, the seeker needs to marshal all their mental prowess to attack the problem, and it may require learning new and unfamiliar skills in order to deal with it. So, what I neglected to tell you was that as I was prepping for the episode back in October, the one thing that I had asked for, because for me it was right at the end of the year, I look at Samhain as being the time when we transition from one cycle into the next. And I had asked, what do we need for the upcoming year? So when this card comes up and I read that last part, especially, when it comes up, the seeker needs to marshal all their mental prowess to attack the problem, and it may require learning new and unfamiliar skills in order to deal with it. Which I thought was pretty straightforward. So, my next question, what new skills do we need to learn for the upcoming year? Because it does seem like, according to that, it does seem like that we will be, it will be an exercise in our mental prowess, as Raven puts it. And so that's kind of where I began. What 3 skills are we going to need to develop? Before I continue with that, you may notice we have a little bit of a different background today. That is because it is getting to the time of year where I am most creative artistically. And so I kind of created this little space for me to paint and to do my watercolor, acrylics, whatever. And I just wanted to share that with you a little bit today. Most of the paintings on this wall, the ones that you can see anyway, are mine. This one back here is really interesting. It's one that, it's how I kind of envision walking the weird. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I hope you're feeling as inspired to be creative or to do something for yourself. And I would remind us not to get too caught up in the holidays. So, back to our reading, or the topic. I began by looking up the word ambivalent. So in here, he is an ambivalent figure of opposites. I wanted to understand the word ambivalent a little better. It came about as a word when I looked it up. a scientific word, a psychological word, and a word that developed for people in the sciences. Now, ambivalent, if we break it up according to etymology online, but it's not etymology, it's etymonline, I think, .com. Ambi, like ambidextrous, means both. Valent or valence basically means strong. So when we're ambivalent, I've always thought of it as being ambivalent, being kind of like nonchalant. It doesn't matter to me. I don't really care either way. But when I looked up the etymology of it and we started to look at it, it means that you have an equally strong, the word strong came up, feeling about both. So it's not about I don't care about either. It's I feel equally strong, which I guess can be varying strengths, but about both. I think that is a very interesting idea moving into, for us and those of us who live in the US, an election year. Whole different rabbit hole. So it helped me understand a little bit better what maybe the core thread in these three skills is going to be. Now, you're on a journey with me talking about this. This is going to evolve. So, now, to ask which skills we're going to need, I pulled 3 runes. One for each skill. So today we're going to talk about the first one I pulled, which was Gar. Pretty appropriate for, I don't know, it's just a rune I'm very much connected to. So Gar, meaning Yggdrasil, the tree, Odin's spear. It's a rune of being connected. It, to me, is a rune of Odin's folk. It is a rune about, if we kind of take it apart, Gebo and Ingus, so the price to pay for the initiation. And just to read you the poem from my book. Yep, still pushing the book. Not pushing. It's here. It's a reference. So, Gar, stop, but not to me. Connection to the tree. The green glowing, holding all 9 worlds. The spear shows blood sacrificed to surf the green waves. The Ingus pierced by the gift, the sacrifice required to pass. Gar. As always, if I feel a bit like I need more focus, I will pull more runes or cards. And in that case, I pulled 2 runes and then led to pulling one of the Wild Unknown Archetypes cards. So I pulled Ak and Suwilo. So I'll read you their poems real quick, and then we'll see if we can begin to piece together what this looks like. So, Ak. Ak is a rune of sovereignty, interconnectedness, how about that? Endurance, leadership, the oak tree. Also, Angerboda, who is one of Loki's wives. To earn your stripes, it is to be a lightning rod. Be strong, be anchored, and if lightning strikes, be explosive. and use that fire. Now, the other rune that we pulled was Suilo. And Suilo is a rune of the sun, illumination, enlightenment, or endarkenment, and victory. My face and my arms burnt red by my day communing with Suilo. Wind and road, what is your relationship with the sun? I've been so inundated with light that I have an aversion to it. I'll stick with illumination in the darkest sense of the word, and with victory as chosen by the Valkyries. Okay. Gar. In this aspect, in this reading, in this context of this being one of the skills that we need for the upcoming year, it really feels like with Suilo and Ak, to me it feels at this moment like our interconnectedness. So there, with Ak being such a strong, connected to the oak tree, strong, enduring, being a rune of strength, of endurance. So rooted, grounded strength versus like a pushing strength, which would be more Uruz. In this aspect, we then have the opposite of this lightning, pardon me, not lightning. Actually, yes, it is. But we'll also go with this, the sun. The sun, which is, as we understand it, the center of our little solar system. So we have the sun up here, which is hot and fiery and gives life, and also in terms of Suilo being a rune connected to Thor and lightning, it's this movement and growth and this opposites of grounded and sky, so earth and sky. And understanding or looking at how those are connected versus how they're opposites. So maybe let's dig in a little deeper. And to do that on this one, I pulled from the Wild Unknown Archetypes, because I feel like this is such a really beautiful, interesting deck. So Kim Kranz. I pulled the card, the Bardo. This was a kind of a new concept for me. So let me share with you, now that we have the basics of what those runes kind of are saying to me at the moment, let's dive a little deeper. So, the Bardo, the liminal, the in-between, the transition. It is said that the Bardo is a place between this life and the next, a liminal realm through which souls pass. Envisioning this inherently mysterious space creates the potential for us to rise above the concerns of the world and see our relationship through a cosmic and timeless lens. We may receive messages from those who are no longer with us, or see visions of lives not yet lived. In the Bardo, there is potential to forgive, the unforgivable, to say the unsaid, to see the unseen, to love the unloved, to let go of all the things that cause us pain. The bardo suspends us in its spaciousness for just long enough to open us to higher wisdom. Its energy does not belong to the earth as we know it, but rather to the cosmic network of which we are a single thread. When the veil between this life and the next is thinned, energy is stirred. This allows for remarkable healing and vision. The bardo is not to be feared. Take advantage of its energy by recognizing what needs to be resolved. Trust that there is a message for you from beyond. Who is speaking? Go ahead and listen. So, on this page, I just noticed there is this little 3 circles overlapping, which makes a little bit of a triquetra, and space right in the middle. I'm going to say that and then hold on to it for a second because I'm not sure where that goes. Now, this idea, I think, is very much reinforced here. Interestingly enough, it talks about the space in between. Now, I think in our current climate, we're in a time of polarizations, of ideas. The pendulum swings so very wide. And so, like, if we're looking at a spectrum of black and white, as in, paint and art color, white being the absence of, and black being 100 small dots, there are 99 places in between there with 99 dots, 56 dots, 33 dots, and there's a whole bunch in between. So this space of the bardo, being the space in between, is not a place we love to live. I think because we've been taught black and white, and there are no gray areas. But as this book said, which I think it put it quite beautifully, in the bardo, there is potential to forgive the unforgivable, to say the unsaid, to see the unseen, to love the unloved, to let go of all the things that cause us pain. So one of the skills, and it is a mental one, a very big skill based in our center of knowing being our logic, being a place of being able to think about and to not even to analyze. It's to understand from a very logical perspective our interconnectedness. We may see here and here our physical self and our higher self as being separate, but they're not. We may see us and our, state or national communities that we're part of as being separate, but they're not. There is interconnectedness, and understanding that concept of interconnected can allow us to have the space of the bardo. If we're looking at it from a different visual, having the tree grounded, rooted, not grounded, rooted into the earth, and its trunk and branches are just as big as its roots and its leaves, and they're reaching up into the sky. They're reaching up toward the sun, or the thing that gives it nourishment and provides energy for it to live. Also, from the poem, when lightning strikes the oak tree, it creates fire. So, yes, light from the sun gives warmth, but so does light and energy from lightning. Now, those earth, sun, or sky, there's a whole bunch of space in between there, and a lot of things can happen. The sun can warm the earth. The sun can help things grow, and lightning can give us fire and give us illumination in the dark. So the space of the bardo, this space of that we see as being the 99 shades of gray, is one of the three important skills, navigating those 99 shades and understanding them is one of the skills that we're going to need for this next year. So one of the runes that can really help with that is Yor. So that wasn't part of my pulling, my casting, but I will tell you that it is one of the ones that I really do think can help, because not only was it the one that came to me first, but it is a rune of the liminal. So Yor is liminal space, binary boundaries, suppressed emotions and memories, serpent energy, and subconscious. So it connects with Jormungandr, the world serpent. My first lover, you who pierced my shields, you who stirred the depths of my ocean, you who taught me how to remember my body, my connection, and they are one. Do you see? These threads that are already there, right? You will always be my first. So one of the things when I'm working that I have in the past when I've worked with clients, Jormungand is a very good rune that will take you to the boundary that needs to be broken, or the boundary that's holding you back, maybe. And we'll show it to you and, possibly help you break through. It's also a rune because it is, if you'll notice, there's a line, a vertical line, and then the X through it. So being on one side or the other of this line, that's pretty much how I think we see things, us and them, good and bad, black and white, light and dark. And Republican, Democrat. We'll just for a second. So if we pick one side, we only have a partial view of the whole thing. But if we can have one foot on this side and have one foot on this side and begin to see it from an interconnected or from a cosmic, I'm sorry. I'm getting more comfortable with cosmic words. That allows us a bigger perspective. And that is part of this skill that we're going to be, that we've been presented with as one of the skills we'll need for this next year. Seeing the interconnectedness from a bigger perspective, from a mental perspective, not necessarily looking at those things from instinctual or intuitive centers of knowing, but from our center of knowing that is our intellect. 99 shades of gray in between white and completely saturated with pigment. And that is one of the skills that the runes tell us we are going to need for the coming year. Anything else? I don't think so for today. So I will say to you that join me for the next 2 episodes where we dive into the other 2 skills that we'll be needing for the coming year. If you missed it, I am doing a rune panel called Stepping into the Void, a discussion panel with a few people from northern Utah, and that is done once a month. You can go and find that on the We Witches 3 Facebook page. I'm going to try and get that connected to my website somehow. But you can watch the playback, and yeah, it's a fun, good discussion, different points of view. I liked it. And as always, may your weird be filled with health, wealth, strength, and virility.